So many people are interested to learn about houses in Russia and what the difference is between houses in Russia and houses in the UK or the US. I think maybe people are thinking about moving to Russia. People want to know about prices, about how the whole house building process works. So I've come to this settlement today to have a walk around, show you some of the houses, and then talk about the differences between Russia and everywhere else. So in this house, you can see they've got the house, and then they've got this, which has got a chimney in it. And this is a Russian banya. In Russia, banya culture is extremely popular. And so if someone builds a house and they have a reasonably sized plot of land, then the chances are that somewhere down the line, they'll build a banya, a sauna, that they can relax in with their friends, because the majority of people that live in houses will have at some point lived in an apartment. During the Soviet Union, the chances are that almost everybody lived in apartments. And so finally they're living in a house. They want to enjoy the space, enjoy the ability to build a sauna, a Russian banya there. Also, they're going to probably have a separate barbecue area that they can relax in, cook barbecue with their friends, and then spend time in the garden, sitting in a nice area. Sometimes these barbecue areas are going to have water there, sink, you know, you're going to have like really amazing ones. And then obviously there's also like basic ones that are just a little kind of roof area. So this is not typical, but this is typical. So typically in Russia, the first thing that everyone asks me is, Sam, why the high fences? And it's a weird one, because I don't think anyone really knows why we have the high fences, because it's not like we need the high fences because of security. It's not like there's loads of burglars around here and nothing ever happens in a place like this. I can tell you, there's no crime, nothing ever happens. The biggest amount of crime could be, I don't know, someone perhaps getting too drunk on their birthday. I think initially in the 90s, when people started to have money to buy private houses, the crime rate was quite high. And so people built high fences. But I think now people just follow the trend. Fences are sold at that height, that size. People buy them and put them up. Their neighbours put them up, when everyone just puts fences up that are high. I think it's just normal. It's not like they're trying to keep out the criminals now. Perhaps what they're trying to do is create some privacy so they can relax and enjoy their time on their property themselves and don't have to worry about the neighbours seeing them, or people walking down the street like me with a camera and seeing what they're doing. Perhaps they can sunbathe or whatever. Perhaps they, you know, can store their things there and feel comfortable that we've got their bikes there and things like that. But again, it's not really for safety. I think it's just more of a trend now than anything else. Now, of course, the Soviet Union was communist, and during communism, everything was shared. And so people want to mark their territory. Everyone will know that if you put the fence up, anything over the fence is your territory, and it's not for everyone's use, it's just for yours. So typically in Russia, there's going to be two types of places where people live. Let's just break it down like that. Obviously you've got your allotments and stuff like that, but we're talking about private houses. So you've got a private settlement where one company builds the whole settlement. But typically people buy individual plots and build the houses themselves, or, you know, outsource the work to one particular company that they choose, and their neighbours can purchase the plot next door and use a completely different company to build the house. And so therefore you're going to have a mixture of all different types of houses in one settlement. If the whole settlement's built by one company, then typically they'll stick to one theme. And so that's why you often have so many different types of houses all kind of mixing together, depending on the fantasy of the person that's bought the property, the budget they have, and their taste, I guess. So if you see this here, this yellow pipe, that means gas. When a new settlement is built, or being prepared, they'll bring the gas pipes further along from wherever the nearest gas pipes are currently. So if there's a village down the road, then they'll bring the gas from that village through pipes to the new settlement. And typically what they'll do is at the edge of each plot of land, they'll put the gas, and then it's up to the homeowner to then connect the gas to their house. Some settlements will start to sell the plots of land before the gas is brought in, and the gas, well, the plot will be a lot cheaper because of it, because you don't know when the gas is coming. Now the gas will eventually be brought to the settlement, but how long is it going to take? And therefore you risk not knowing that, and you can buy your plot of land for cheaper. But it's much better, of course, to buy the plot of land with the gas already at the edge of your plot, so that you can just go through the process of connecting the gas when your house is built. So you can see this house here, they've got a nice big banya, they've got a little barbecue zone, and then the house is the big white one behind it. So the next thing in Russia is what they call the communications, I guess, the utilities. So that's water and septic. And so if you're on a new settlement, or if you're in a village, the chances are that you're going to have your own septic and your own water supply. So you'll dig your own well that will be pumped, the water will be pumped into your house, and then the same with the septic tank. If you're near to the town or in the town, you might be able to connect to the central sewage and to the central water system. But typically most houses, they're going to have private septic and private water supply. The next thing, of course, if you're building a house, you're going to say, well, what is the planning permission? Do I need to obey certain laws and rules when I'm building the house? Well, the rules are pretty much non-existent. In America, you call them housing codes, I think. In Russia, as long as you don't build more than 3 stories, then you can pretty much build anything on your plot of land. Now, it's going to differ if you're building in a historical part of the town or something. You might need to follow a typical Russian style or something like that. But generally, there's no real housing codes. Just there's a certain distance away from the fence that you should build, things like that, but very, very basic housing codes. And so you can pretty much build anything you want. All the houses are very different here, as you can see. Now this is actually a rarity in Russia, a garage. And so not many people actually have garages in Russia, and the reason is because they ask their friends or family that have built houses, right, you know, do you use your garage? And they all say yes, but not for the car. We just fill it with other stuff we've got, you know, that we've got nowhere to put anywhere, and the car stays outside. And so less and less people are actually building garages, which is funny, right? Because you would think people would want to put the car in the garage so that the snow doesn't go on it, so you don't have to clean it every morning. But there you go. So the reason that they've got so many smaller fences here in this place we're working is because it's a private settlement. There's a barrier to get in and out, so they're not really worried about people kind of walking past like me with a camera. In case you didn't know, Russian people are very patriotic. So in Russia we have all these guard dogs like this one. Hi mate, how's it going? Yeah, I know. You look more like a cat though. You look more like a cat than a dog. So he did his job, he's guarded the territory, and look over here. We've got some guy barbecuing. So typically in Russia, the 3 types of materials that people use to build houses are either breeze blocks, bricks, or wood. But the most popular are breeze blocks. Bricks used to be the most popular, but they're a bit more expensive. So breeze blocks are just easy. They're just light. They last a long time, and they're cheaper. So something else that really adds to the quality of life in the village or the settlement where you live is, of course, the road. And the road is a very important thing because you're going to be going up and down it every day, and it can be really annoying if it's really badly made and full of potholes or gravel or whatever. Because in Russia, the weather, of course, is, well, snowy and then muddy and then loads of water and then really hot, and so the road is really important. But the place where you live, it could have any road. If it's a brand new settlement, it could come without a road to start with, and then the people in the settlement get together and pay for the road, or eventually the government will pave the road. But the price of your plot of land will differ depending on the road that is already there, you know, going to the plot of land or in between the plots in the settlement or the village. I love houses like this on the kind of super modern thing. You can see we've got all different ones here. So typically in Russia, what you're going to find is the house is a little bit higher than the level of the floor because obviously of the snow. Sometimes they'll have steps going up, and the first floor will be a little bit high, and there'll perhaps be a cellar, because obviously the weather really dictates how people build in Russia, right? Also, you're probably going to have, at least on the first floor, you're going to have underfloor heating. Perhaps you're going to have an area outside the door that melts the snow, because, you know, it's nice now, me walking around in the sun or whatever, but half the year in Russia you can expect it to be cold and snowy. The final thing, I think, is property tax and payments. What kind of payments can you expect to pay? Well, if you're on a private settlement which has got its own barrier, the big ones might have schools and shops and everything inside them, and you might have to pay some sort of upkeep. It's like a gated community. But generally, the small ones, or if you live in a village, you're not going to pay any of that. The only thing you're going to need to pay is property tax, or tax for your land, which is very, very low. Ridiculously low. You're talking a couple of $100 a year. It's like virtually non-existent. It's not something you're going to even worry about. So Russia, of course, is a lot cheaper than, well, most of the places in the world, I guess, especially Europe or the US or the UK. Unless you're living in the center of Moscow or somewhere like that, of course, you know, those prices are crazy. So here, look, you can see the gas station for the village, and also you can see the barrier they've got there that closes the village off. Well, not village, I guess it's more of a settlement. And then the gas at the edge of people's plots. So this house has got solar panels. Not often you see them in my part of Russia. Your quality of life is going to differ a lot depending on the area that you build your house in or you buy your house in. If it's in like a settlement like this where there's probably 100, 150 houses, there's a barrier to get in and out, you have a little, what do you call it, a little remote to open and close it. It's very peaceful, very nice. There's not going to be litter around. Every now and again you're going to get a few building materials, but they'll soon get cleared up because the neighbours won't put up with that. And so obviously life's going to be nice here. If you're building in a village, you've got no control really over the state of the road, over what the neighbours do. It's going to be a lot different. But then you're going to have a village shop probably, and perhaps a church, administrative building, things like that. So there's pluses and minuses for living in different places. Should you buy or build? Well, I recommend buying if you're not somebody who knows Russian or has a Russian family member, just because it's going to be a lot more difficult for you. Obviously, if you're in the building trade and you know about housing, it'll be a lot easier, so it's up to you. But I recommend to buy, not to build. You go with whatever you think is going to be best for you.